Hello, I'm Robert Hayes from Channel 17 Adventure Out. As you all know, we have a very important proposition being considered on the ballot this year. That is the proposed East Pool Complex, which has been in the planning stages since at least 2009 and has now reached the final approval by the Condo Board for your consideration. Your Condo Board, with help from the Planning Board, has spent many hundreds of hours in fine-tuning the project, based in large part on your input. We hope that the information contained in this video will help you in your decision process. You will hear from Terry Ferris of the Planning Committee with a history of why we're proposing this project, Ray Cooper of the Condo Board, whose subcommittee was very influential in decisions surrounding the proposed pool, and finally John Jones, President of the Condo Board, who will cover the costs and assessments of the project and gives a few final comments.
When I was first approached about making a few comments for this video, Ray Cooper posed the following question. From the perspective of the Planning Committee that has been deeply involved in this process from the very beginning, what is it that you would like our residents to know? The first thing that came to mind was how absolutely crucial it is that all residents carefully read the summer mailing that we received regarding the East Pool Complex. From my direct experience, I know that the information presented in that document is very accurate representation of where we are and how we got here. The information contained in Mike Ellis's history of the East Pool Complex and Barrow Willardson's fitness trends and benefits needs to be understood by all residents in order to cast an informed vote. The cost estimates and the reserve fund information is important to know, but we also need to remember that shortly after December the 12th, we will no longer need to rely on estimates. All of us will have the hard numbers to help us make our decisions. Read this document more than once. The second thing that came to mind that was from the Planning Committee's perspective, we now have the opportunity to address several long-standing and important needs within our community. From multiple surveys conducted by Wendy Huntsman from ASU and by several condo boards and planning committees, we know that an expanded fitness center with room for group exercise activities and other wellness-related programs, and an oasis-like meeting space have been two of the top priorities of the residents of Venture Out since at least as far back as 2002. The pressing need that has been thrust upon us by the impending failure of the plumbing at the East Pool, which was identical to the problems at the West Pool, gave the board at the time the direction to start the planning process for the East Pool, not only to avoid a similar situation of sudden failure, but also to address the often stated goal of an improved fitness center. The boards and planning committees started this planning process clear back in 2009. They have been meeting methodically for years to develop a plan that is both well considered and also took significant input from the lot owners in its development. These included 3 standing room only planning sessions in the arts and crafts room where over 300 residents stepped forward to directly participate in the process. The East Pool is 6 years younger than the West Pool, but since problems started to occur in 2009, we can presume that we have a minimal time to make decisions before we have a similar failure. Once we began to pull dirt when cleaning the lines at the West Pool, it was about 3 to 4 years before we had to begin closing down showers. At this date, we have been pulling dirt at the East Pool for 5 years. If we lose the use of the restrooms, the county will not allow us to keep the pool open without bringing in some type of temporary restroom and shower facilities. Obviously, the major difference between these two facilities is the fitness center. At a recent condo board meeting, a resident suggested that we should just repair the plumbing and leave the building alone, since that is what he would do with his own home. In our situation, doing so would create a domino effect with some unacceptable consequences. If we went to repair the plumbing, we would have to pull a city permit. If we did that, we would have to bring the restrooms up to current codes. If we did that, we would have to make them larger. If we did that, we would lose the current space occupied by the fitness center. And if we did that, we would have to build a fitness center at another location. If we did that, we would have to pay for the construction of 2 sets of restrooms instead of just 1. Since the restrooms are the most expensive square footage areas of this entire project, to have to build restrooms twice would be the epitome of poor planning and a waste of our money. In addition, if we were to repair the plumbing, we would still have the lines from the pump house area to the pool running under the current building, which is also a good example of poor planning. The third thing that came to my mind was the question of why are we changing the plan to include a different pool configuration at this late stage in the process? The honest answer is that we all assumed, incorrectly, that changing the pool would add a significantly higher cost to an already expensive project. When we got to the point that we were working with pool contractors, we learned that the increased cost was not nearly what we had assumed. The idea of changing the pool configuration had actually come up a couple times during the 2.5 years of focused planning, but was set aside each time. Why did it come back? I'll use an example to explain. If you were building a brand new resort community with 2 pools, and you were very aware that the shape and the depth of any pool significantly impacts the range of activities that can take place in those pools, would you build them exactly the same? Would doing so increase or decrease the range of activities that could be enjoyed by residents and guests? Would building them the same be an example of good planning? Of course not. Venture Out has many residents that take great pleasure out of sunbathing, swimming laps, playing water volleyball, water walking, treading water, visiting the spas and beside the pool, and water exercise classes. All of these activities are important parts of the Venture Out lifestyle. The final thing that came to mind was the concerns expressed about the possible negative impact on the ambiance or the aesthetics of our East Pool area. All of us are proud of the beautiful home that we have here in Venture Out, and we should always endeavor to maintain its beauty. From a planning perspective, however, planners are continually asked to perform a balancing act. What is important and what should be the order of that importance? When you hear a neighbor or a guest to the park talk about what makes Venture Out so special, it's always the active lifestyle that is encouraged by a multitude of choices. I've heard many people say if you get bored and venture out, it must be by choice. Our activities are the lifeblood of Venture Out. Most importantly, it's the people you meet and the friendships you make. I'm personally not convinced that the East Pool complex will lessen the beauty of our park at all. I believe the design is attractive and will complement the design of our beautiful center, which is the pride of our community. But even if it did so to a small degree, planners and boards have to strike that balance of what is best for all current residents and those of the future. I'm sure that individual planning committee members have their own ideas of what they would like to see or not see in the East Pool complex. But when tasked with helping design the best overall plan for our community, the plan we have before us now is strongly supported by all.
On the East Pool Complex, I've been asked to talk about components of it that mean something to each of us as residents. This project will provide us an upgraded exercise room and an upgraded multi-purpose room for small exercise groups. It'll have friendly floor in it so that it has a little bit of softness to it, but also ability to have water easily cope with that floor. We'll also have a small kitchen bar so that people could have special events in there and socialize with their friends and possibly club members. the East Pool complex is driven by the fact that our building is failing and we need to upgrade it and meet the city of Mesa's and the county's code issues. The act of repairing our pool house will give us a bathhouse with increased numbers of showers and adequate number of sinks and bathroom facilities. Also, this project will let us bring up to code our 2 spas and to do any fine-tuning on the maintenance of those spas, primarily with their plumbing and also possibly any tile work that might be needing. The maintenance, the code work on the spas is primarily centered around meeting today's standards on the drain systems for safety. The act of building at the East Pool also affects the pool deck. As we build in that project, we have to remove the present deck and deal with the civil engineering requirements for the grade around the pool. During the summer, we found that as we were looking at this project, that the pool itself became some concerns. During the forums we had, people ask us, are you going to upgrade the pool? And the answer was, prior to August, no, we are not. But as we got deeper into the project, we found through the civil engineer and through our architect and through our contractors that we needed to look at that pool as well as the rest of the complex. A committee of 4 condo board members met and also involved residents to identify what would be the best solution for the pool itself and the surroundings of the pool. The pool deck became an issue because the cost of maintaining our pool deck concrete surface was becoming a maintenance issue. Every 5 to 10 years, we were having to refinish that pool deck. In this process, our pool contractor recommended that we consider using 12-inch by 12-inch artistic pavers for our deck. The life of these pavers are about 30 years, and they are cooler on the foot touched, as cool or cooler than the Cool Deck product itself. And also it gave us a really rich resort look. We looked into these pavers and we found that they are very non-slick, and when they get wet, they're very safe, and we're really looking forward to that. We also found in the pool analysis that we had a desire to make it more entrance-wise for our people that had difficulty stepping down the steps into the pool. So we researched and found that a chairlift would meet our residents' needs to have access to their pool. We chose that over a ramp because of the amount of space that a ramp would use. We also found out that the entry into the pool itself needs to enter into 3-foot or 36-inch depth water. This is significant to us because as we looked at the troubleshooting about our present pool, it was found that the depth that we have on the shallow end is many more square feet for 3-foot depth water than our exercise group needs. Our exercise group needs between 42 to 42 inch, which is a 3.5 foot depth, up to 5 foot depth to help them have quality exercise area. So the pool itself is being modified to improve the amount of space that could be used by the water exercise group. In the act of improving the pool, we also found that we needed to put in a grip type of railing or tile on the edge of the pool. It's called a safety grip, and this allows this to be used for our exercise group. During our November 16th pool event, we found that a lot of people want to maintain a deep end of our pool. So that was another issue that we needed to address, so that we didn't have the condition of possibly having a wading pool. A large number of our residents wants to keep the shape of the pool, but also maintain at least a 7-foot depth at the deep end. We also found by widening the key end of the shape closest to the community center, by widening that to 37 feet, we allowed our swimming lap swimmers to have 3 more lanes in the pool to do lap swimming. This would go from our present 3 up to 6 lanes. This then drove us to look at the steps on the side of the pool and how we could move those to a corner away from the swim lanes so that we would not interrupt the swimmers. This would not negatively affect our depths. It just means that the corners that our steps would go into would be entering into 3-foot deep water. The chairlift is a sleeve in the deck area close to the pool. It's a very inconspicuous small chair that's run off of a battery. The battery has to be charged periodically, and it has the ability to have a secure lock system so that it can be checked out as needed. The chair can be managed by a remote control that is waterproof. So several of the chairs we researched, a individual person could get themselves into the pool and out with the proper keyed mechanism. What will you have in this pool area is a new pool meeting lap swimmers' needs and exercise needs and wading needs. And also we found that a desire to not lose deck space. So in our bid, we increased on the sides, on the north and the south and the west towards the community center by moving the little stub wall out towards the fence a slight amount. We can gain 1,100 square feet of increased deck space for our new proposed pool. We also found that people are very, very committed to keeping a resort feel of landscape. The green, lush landscape that we presently have is encroaching upon our deck, and we believe it needs to be renovated and improved. We built that into our bid, and that's a part of our cost for the pool component of this project. I'm not going to go into the dollars because I know that other members of the board have moved into that information. But we do want you to know that if we just stayed with the present pool and just dealt with just the maintenance of it, it's going to cost us about $215,000 just to fix the plumbing, replaster it, don't change any of it. It's still going to cost us about $215,000. And that would not give us new landscape upgrade. It would not give us a higher quality 30-year deck product. So we know that for $298,000, this would let us get an improved pool to go along with our improved exercise area and our multi-purpose space, with the flexibility of being able to better meet people's needs in the therapy, physical, our massage rooms, and trainers for our exercise room. We believe that if you build it, our residents will use it. Improve the amenities, and more people will use those amenities. We believe that this plan has started in 1994, and now we've got to the point where we're saying we need to make decisions. Should we decide not to support this, the act of making that decision will cause us some reactionary issues of the pool house itself failing. So we know we have to repair the pool house, and that cost of repairing that during the time, usually it happens on Murphy's Law. It happens when we're at the peak season and things fail, then things are shut down, and our residents do not get to use a facility that they have truly enjoyed. I hope that this shares with you a little bit of a picture about what this project is about. And one thing I would really like to advise you to do is to get a copy of the updated mailing that went to all owners in the summer. We have updated it about in the month or the middle of January, updated it with all the new numbers and all the additional information, and it is a rich, valuable resource item for anyone that would like to learn about this project. Thank you very much for being concerned and inquisitive about this project, and we look forward for your support. Thank you.
Well, before me, you had an opportunity to listen to Terry Ferris, who talked about the rationale of the project as well as the history. And Terry is probably one of the most knowledgeable ones because he's been involved in this project almost from its onset. He's served a great amount of time on the planning committee, as has Ray Cooper. Ray was a planning committee member prior to being on the condo board. And if there's any one person that I know has studied the elements and the specifics of the East Pool complex, it's Ray Cooper. So I hope you've had an opportunity to listen to those and appreciate the knowledge and information they had to share with you. My task at this point is to talk about the costs and talk a little bit about the development of the costs that we have at this point in time in the project. In March of last season, 2013, we came to you with some estimates of the project's amount, and we looked at three different components to the project. We looked at the base bid, we had money set aside for saunas, and we had separately solar as a separate project as well. Our March estimate just for the primary project itself, the bathhouses and the pool equipment and the pool decking, was $2,557,000. There were some add-ons budgeted that amounted to about $130,000. Part of that was pool equipment. We had fitness room windows. We had gate security we had to add on, and then we had to put in an allowance for a storm drain system. On top, that brought the total up to $2,686,853. And on top of that, we budgeted two more items, and that was a 7% inflationary factor of about $188,000. And then we estimated the city of Mesa fees would be $28,447. That brought us to a base estimated cost of $2,903,380. When you add both sauna and solar, the total project was going to be at $3,254,380. At the time we introduced the estimates, I tried on numerous occasions to make sure that people understood that these were estimated costs, that they were not fixed costs, and that we would go through a formal bidding process later on in the year. We did that in November and December, and on December 5th, we opened up the bids from 7 different contractors, and we found some very competitive prices. What we did find is that we had a low bid from Brycon Construction, very reputable company in the valley as well as, in fact, in the entire Southwest. They came in with a bid of $2,059,000, a difference of base bid of almost $500,000. We attribute to the dropping costs is that the economy is still pretty competitive. It hasn't bounced back in Arizona, and so people have still sharpening their pencils. But the other thing we found out is that this company felt that they could complete the project in 6.5 months as opposed to 10 months. In our bidding documents, we proposed a timeline set at 10 months, and they found that they could do this in a much shorter time frame. The value of that was tremendous in terms of cost, but it also eliminates the need for a social board to find alternative locations for fitness, and then will not necessitate the need to shut down East Pool during the peak of our season. So with our new timeline, it should be completed in the middle of October. With all the change order, not change orders necessarily, but all the punch lists, all the miscellaneous kinds of things that typically go along with any project, we will see that project will be done in early November. So those are the positives, and I can't say too much about any more of positives because there's not a lot of negatives in terms of the bidding process. We've got firm bids. The bids are such that the contractor must adhere to the bidding. Once we get approval for the project, then we'll enter into hard and firm contract documents. In addition to the costs that Bricon bid, we did add some items, and we also took out some items. So that totaled to about $81,600. Brought up our total amount of the project, or at least our subtotal before we added any owner contingency, of $2,130,000. Then we set aside an amount of $70,630 for an owner contingency. Now that contingency amount is to be managed by the condo board. It belongs to Venture Out. The contractor has no access to it without our permission. That brings our actual base cost to $2,201,230. And then we added we found, I shouldn't say we added, we looked at a dimension and an issue involving the pool and the decking, is that the original estimator and the bidder that provided those costs failed to recognize or include the total scheme of it, the whole scope of what it would take to bring our pool up to code, as well as our decking. So we took the opportunity to totally replace our pool, totally replace the decking, introduce some landscaping, and then we cut the solar project down from $333,000 estimate of $215,000, because we found out the project for the solar project itself was overbuilt, and with a lot of study by Mike Ellis and the rest of the board, we came to the conclusion that we didn't need the excess design. We could get by with what we had. So when you add the pool decking and the landscaping, and then you add the solar, our total project is $2,714,358, which is $540,000 less than what our total project was estimated in March. So that is the bottom line of that. There's probably two elements to looking at that bottom line cost that affect all of us as owners. First, we have a base cost. We have an opportunity to commit some reserve funds to help offset those costs, and we have an opportunity to do have some foundation and social board contributions that will help offset those costs. So we'll bring it down to our balance to need to be assessed by lot owners is $950 per lot owner. The ballot you will look at has an option to pay that over 3 different quarters if you choose, and there's going to be options also available for those who can't afford it, who need maybe another financing strategy to be offered them, and the board is more than willing to do that. The reserve figure is $1,002,808, and that comes directly out of your reserve fund. And a lot of people have been asking us, well, what's the impact on the reserve fund, and how well it will look like? How badly are we going to impact our reserve fund? A couple things to remember is that your reserve fund is replenished almost every year, to the point where you're always getting more reserve funds typically than what you spend out in your reserve fund. So if we look at where we are currently as of December 31st, we're at $1,131,509. We have a few more miscellaneous expenditures that will come out of it in this fiscal year, but then we will add $282,813,000 with revenue, quarterly contributions that each one of us make. That brings to your net balance as of June 30th of this year at $1,404,000. So now, when you hit the reserve of at $1,208,808, we're going to also have to consider that we've got some costs for the secondary project that the board feels that they might want to accept a responsibility for this next budget year. We also have a commitment to refurbish courts 1 and 2 and then relocate them. That means tennis courts 1 and 2. And then we set aside some $90,000 worth of miscellaneous funds to support and repair the West Pool. Then on top of that, you add $593,907, and what happens to your net balance from one year to the next? It goes from $1,004,000 to $695,000. Then, if you project that out and using the same kind of thinking of what you would already anticipate for the expenses, and then you begin to add in an accelerated, approach to resolving our street issues because of all the digging up that we've had this season. And then you look at the idea that we will need to be able to finance our secondary phase of the project over a period of time. And keep in mind, these are John Jones's premises. They haven't been totally accepted or adopted by future boards because we can't bind future boards. But if we're using those premises, then you would see that your reserve fund at the end of 5 years then restores to a higher level than it currently is, and that would be about $1,280,000. If you project out the reserve fund another 5 years, you'd probably be about $2.7 million in reserve. It's designed to handle these kind of impacts, but as well as to continue to replenish itself. So with that, I really would appreciate that people have an opportunity to take a look at not only this YouTube video, but also go to the website. We have got all of the material that we've updated from our summer mailer. It's on our website and includes all the changes that I've just referenced. It's talked about all the things that Ray Cooper has identified as elements of the project, and it goes into all the history of history of the East Pool Complex, how long it's being studied. We've got a project that's now coming to culmination after 10 years of discussion. We encourage you to investigate the facts, form an opinion, and vote as your conscience may by February 19th. Thank you.